Both Georgia and LSU still have national championship hopes. Neither can afford the loss Saturday in Baton Rouge. Hey, how are you, folks? Jason Horowitz, glad to be with you on the SEC GEICO Game of the Week here on CBSSports.com. It's the 9th-ranked Bulldogs on the road to take on the 11th-ranked LSU Tigers. Let's bring in Spencer Tillman from Houston, of course, of CBS Sports, to break it all down. And Spence, neither team has really looked that impressive the last couple weeks. Obviously, LSU 2 weeks ago got hammered by Florida. But what happened last week in the second half for the Tigers against South Carolina, that was impressive.
Yeah, Jason, it was. It was a bit of a renaissance for them in terms of getting back to the ways that defined them defensively last year. Coming into that contest, believe it or not, they had the defense of LSU Tigers, 4 turnovers created. That was lowest among FBS competition. And that's something that under Bo Pelini, they certainly never hung around that low in the basement of that statistical category. But again, they got it going in the second half. I think they had a total of 6 sacks in that game, only came in with a total of 9. So they were very impressive, creating turnovers, giving that offense a second opportunity to come in. They were pretty stiff. Tyson Jackson and the rest of that bunch did a fine job in the second half.
Now they get Georgia this week, and the Bulldogs, after that loss to Alabama the last 2 weeks, they've dominated, at least in terms of stats, Tennessee and Vanderbilt, but not on the scoreboard. Why has that been the case?
Well, it gets down to efficiency. And again, we can make excuses and suggest that the defenses in the SEC are so tough that they do tend to affect execution. But you know what? That is life in the SEC, and you got to deal with it. So what Georgia's got to do right now is focus on their execution on the offensive side of the ball. Matt Stafford has got to focus also on the finer points of his game, executing, delivering the ball on time, in rhythm. A.J. Green, his receivers, has got to do a fine job on their end as well. They've been relying on talent and their ability to separate against lesser talent at the cover corner position in recent weeks. That's not going to be the case as they get into the heart of conference play. So again, to the degree that they can execute, they're going to start to have some success, and they're going to need it because they're not like Alabama, who you pretty much expect to play close game. Nick Saban with that defensive pedigree. This Georgia team has enough weapons on the offensive side of the ball that their score should be a lot higher than they have been in the last couple of weeks, Jason.
Well, weapon number 1 is Knowshon Moreno. Do you expect him to have a big game against LSU?
Well, if the second half performance that LSU's defense showed us against South Carolina shows up, then I don't expect Knowshon Moreno just to run roughshod through them. But again, he seems to be back over that 100-yard clips. And I think Knowshon's big challenge is, can he be consistent with the first half to the second half? If he can get a rhythm going, really there's no one in the nation that can stop him. He's just that type of difference maker as a runner. But again, he's going to have to do it for 60 minutes. You can't give up against this defense as they demonstrated against South Carolina last week.
As we've seen all year long for LSU, they also need to run the football to win. It has been Charles Scott, but now they're working in Keelan Williams. Do you think they'll be able to run as a 1-2 tandem against the 3rd best rush defense in all of college football?
Well, we know this much. Les Miles is certainly going to try. Again, he's been given the dub riverboat gambler by some, but at heart, I think he's a small ball specialist. He would love nothing better than to win a small, say, 14-7 type game. And to do that effectively, he's got to get Scott running. He's got to get both his running backs doing the things that they need to do on a consistent basis to help their quarterback situation. And I think that's the greater point here. You know, Hatch is the guy that came in and got him that pass via the tight end last week that was wind up being the decision maker in that outcome. So again, it wasn't Jarrett Lee. It wasn't that. So they need for him to do the same thing that he did last week, but the running backs are going to give them the stability that they need to get that consistent quarterback play. They do not run well playing from behind. They need to have a lead, just the quarterbacks of LSU, to be effective. Except
for last week, though, Spence. They ran for 74 yards in their last 2 drives, and they were, before that, coming from behind. So they were able to do that in the 4th quarter against South Carolina. Now, Les Miles' squad, they've beaten top 10 teams the last 6 times they have played a top 10 team. Georgia would make number 7. Does LSU win at home?
Well, this is going to be a tough one. LSU is at home, and that's going to be, I think, the decider in this particular one. I don't think I've seen in recent weeks execution from Georgia to come away and still a win here. I think LSU stays on track, controls their fate, getting in their gun sights, that November 8th lineup against Alabama. If they do that one, they're going to be in the SEC championship and playing possibly for a national title.
And that's the important part. You said it. They control their own fate. Do the Tigers. They win out. They're in the SEC championship game. Spencer Tillman, thank you very much, sir.
All right, Jason, we'll see you, buddy.
And, folks, don't forget about SEC Live, which you can see on CBSSports.com. The games you see on CBS, you see streaming live. And, of course, this one, it is Georgia and it is LSU. For Spencer Tillman, I'm Jason Horowitz. Take care, folks.